The Uralic or Finno-Ugrian language, as I said, there are two languages of Europe which are not Aryan, Finnish and Hungarian. They are known as the Finno-Ugrian or Uralic languages. They are found in Eastern Europe. Now, there are Indo-Iranian words in these languages. There are words which have been borrowed from Sanskrit and Iranian in these languages. The earliest layer of Indo-Iranian, and see the number of words, means every field of cultural activity, they have borrowed words from Sanskrit and Iranian. For example, domestic animals, sheep, ram, camel, stallion, colt, piglet, calf. Then pastoral processes, skin, wool, cloth, farming words, tools, metal, words for ladder, social relations like man, sister, orphan, and words, Vedic and Iranian words like dasa, asura, heaven, the netherworld, God, happiness, vajra, dead, mortal, kidney, ecstatic drinks used by the Iranian priests, honey, hemp, and fly agaric. This is a list of words borrowed by Finnish and Hungarian from Sanskrit and Iranian. Now, what is the argument by Western scholars? This proves that the Indo-Iranian people were there in Eastern Europe and they came to India. And because they were there in Eastern Europe, these languages have borrowed, because these languages have never been known to be around India. They were always in Eastern Europe. So this is the argument. This is one of the arguments to show that the Indo-Iranians came from Europe. But this massive evidence of contacts between the Indo-Iranian and the Uralic languages is treated as evidence that the Indo-Iranians stayed for some time in the Uralic areas east of Europe on their way to Central Asia, thence to India and Iran. But in fact, it is the strongest possible evidence to the exact opposite. Because firstly, Sanskrit has borrowed from every language, and anyone who has studied Sanskrit, they claim that they have borrowed words from Dravidian, Munda, everything. But all these borrowings are only from Indo-Aryan and Iranian to Uralic, to Finnish and Hungarian. Linguists have searched and searched to find even a single borrowing which Sanskrit or Iranian has borrowed from Finnish and Hungarian, but they have not found a single word of that kind. Whereas there is a mass of Sanskrit and Iranian words in Finnish and Hungarian. Now, borrowings always take place in both directions, and Sanskrit itself is known to have borrowed or absorbed foreign words in every situation. English, has borrowed so many words from every language. African, Malaysian, Indian, Hindi words have been borrowed. Red Indian words have been borrowed. This is so even in the case of powerful immigrant groups in a colonial situation. Thus, for example, English words entered languages all over the world. But English as spoken by English colonialists in different parts of the world also borrowed heavily from the local languages all over the world. And since these colonists were still part of England, they produced popular literature in England, and many of these words were used by them, and those words entered the Indian language, the English language. There are so many Indian words that which are there in English. The only situation where such words, there is no two-way borrowing, there is only one-way borrowing. That happens when immigrant groups do not transmit the words back. Like English people went all over the world. The English words were borrowed by all those people, and the English people borrowed all those words from them. Then they went back to England and wrote books in which they used those words, so those words have entered the English language. But suppose they had not gone back. For example, medieval Arabic and Turkish invaders and immigrants in India, they came to India. Now all our Indian languages have borrowed so many Arabic words, Turkish words. But those people also, when staying in India, they borrowed so many words from our local languages. But they did not go back to Arabia and Turkey with those words. So in Turkey and Arabia, you don't find these Indian words. Similarly, 18th century Indian immigrants into Fiji, Mauritius and Suriname. There are people who left India 2 centuries ago and stayed in these countries. Now they still speak Hindi of the kind which was spoken here 2 centuries ago. In their Hindi, they don't only speak Hindi which is 2 centuries old, they also use words which are borrowed from the languages of Fiji, Mauritius and Suriname. And similarly, the people of Fiji, Mauritius and Suriname have borrowed Hindi words from them. But these people did not come back to India and write books in Hindi so that these words entered the Hindi language. So you don't find Fiji, Mauritius and Suriname words in our Hindi. You find it only in the Hindi spoken by them there. Similarly, Sanskrit in Southeast Asia, the biggest Hindu temple in the world is not in India. It is in Cambodia, the Angkor Wat temple. You find Hindu temples all over Cambodia, Burma, Thailand in ancient times. And if you, all of you must be knowing how all those countries of Southeast Asia have borrowed countless Sanskrit words. And they did not come to India and borrow those words. We know that there were Indian immigrants there who settled down, and those Indian immigrants also obviously borrowed words from those local languages. But in Sanskrit, you don't find any Thai words, Malaysian words, Cambodian words, because those people did not come back. So this proves that this one-way borrowing of Indo-Aryan words into Uralic is not because Indo-Aryans came from there, but because one group of Indo-Aryans went from here and settled down in the Uralic areas, and the Uralic people borrowed from that. And that is the only logical linguistic conclusion.